Oh, God. Here we go again. Start the rumor mill up. Get it going. Here we go again. Juan Soto.
You are Locked On Blue Jays, your daily Toronto Blue Jays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jays. Thank you for making Locked On Blue Jays your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. As always, I'm Braden Iwasco. He's Carter First. You can find us on Twitter, Braden5 Iwasco. Carter First, too, as well on Instagram and TikTok at Locked On Blue Jays. If you're new here on YouTube or listening anywhere else, make sure you head over to the YouTube channel where you can drop a subscription. You'll get live streams, you'll get videos, you'll get shorts, you'll get everything you want right there. And it really does help us out. Discord link is in the description. If you guys want to join and talk Blue Jays with us whenever you want, you're welcome to do so as well. Please donate to the Movember page. It's linked in the description. I don't know how many times I got to say it. Anything you guys can give will help. This is a great cause. I've talked to guys over at Movember. They do just an unbelievable job with this and raising money and awareness. So go make sure you please go and donate. In saying all of that, I hate that we're doing this again. I really hate it, but we have to. We have to do the Juan Soto update. What's going on? Because it is it's pandemonium out here, Carter. It's nuts. We will talk about first base options after yesterday's episode of what happens if Vlad moves to third. We sort of gave our opinions on that, but we're going to talk about some options in free agency that there is as well in the third segment. But today, we want to talk about Juan Soto. We'll give you guys the updates. And then me and Carter have a little bit of a discussion to have about contracts and where they go. What will it look like for Juan Soto? What does it mean? All of that comes in the second segment. We got heated talking about it just off the podcast. Never mind how it's going to be. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that second segment as well. Carter, let's just get it rolling here. Juan Soto scheduled to meet first with the Blue Jays. They will be the first team he meets with. Now, but let me preface this by saying there are 4 teams meeting with Juan Soto this week. It goes Blue Jays, it goes Red Sox, then it goes, I believe it's Yankees, then Mets, or the other way. Yeah, it's Yankees, then Mets. And I don't know. I don't know how to feel. I feel like I'm sitting on pins and needles right now. I don't know what's going to come out of this. I'm nervous. I think all of Blue Jays land is nervous for what's going to happen because I don't want to be sucked back in. And I feel like every day that we talk about this, I'm getting more and more sucked into the possibility with all of everything coming out that we're about to talk about. I don't really know how to feel right now, Carter. How do you feel? First of all, let's start here. How do you feel with the Blue Jays having a sit-down meeting with Juan Soto and being the first team to do so?
Here we go again. That's the first thing I go back to. It's just every single time we hear more and more and more about this Juan Soto discussion, it feels more and more and more like the Shohei Ohtani discussion. Again, when you look at Shohei Ohtani, obviously Juan Soto is not going out there and pitching as well. But I'm not ready to get hurt again. I've said that multiple times. I said I was talking myself into it a little bit, but there's still a part of me just holding back on that Shohei Ohtani aspect. And I wasn't even that big into Shohei Ohtani. I know you were more in on him going to the Toronto Blue Jays than I was, and it still wasn't easy on me. So I can't imagine how you were feeling, obviously, after that news broke. I'm taking it with a grain of salt. Like, he's meeting with 3 other teams that are historic organizations. The Toronto Blue Jays just always seem to be used as leverage in a lot of these deals. Again, we got to hope, cross our fingers that this isn't one of those situations again. And it's really hard to not believe some of these articles coming out just because the sheer amount, the sheer quantity about people talking about the Toronto Blue Jays and these analysts covering this team and with Juan Soto.
Yeah, it's frustrating, to be honest. It is frustrating because every bit of me wants to see this Toronto Blue Jays team succeed. And don't get me wrong, getting Juan Soto makes this team better. It just does. There's no debating it. Any team that he goes to will automatically get better. It just comes down to my mental health, to be honest with you, more than anything. It gets to the point where everybody, if it's at work, if it's our friends, if it's people online, asking me, what do you feel about Juan Soto? What's going to happen with Juan Soto? Or do the Blue Jays have a shot? And to be honest, I'm at the point where I tell them, be optimistic. You'll never go wrong with a Juan Soto signing, but be weary, because we went through this exact same thing last year, and I felt horrible, Carter, because they felt like the rug got pulled out from underneath us. We were ready to pop champagne, and it got taken away from us. Good thing is we were drinking that night anyway, so we got to drown the sorrows a little bit. But no, it was terrible, dude. And so I'm going to tell everybody, be weary, because there are teams in this that will spend the money as well. So let's not get overhyped, but also in the back of your mind, I think as a Toronto Blue Jays fan, you don't want to lose the optimism for these things. You want these things to work out. So be optimistic, but be weary is sort of where I'll leave my thoughts and feelings for this.
Well, I mean, you brought up those 4 teams that are meeting with Juan Soto, but when you look at Mark Feinsand, John Hyman, there's Bob Nightingale, there's so many different analysts and there's so many different opinions on this. I have 2 articles right in front of my face right now that are saying the Dodgers are in on this guy, the Giants are in on this guy, the Nationals are a dark horse team, the Philadelphia Phillies are a dark horse team, Chicago Cubs are another team that could be in the mix. So there's just 4 teams that are meeting with Juan Soto. It doesn't mean that he is going to sign with one of these 4 teams. Honestly, you look at any one of the top 10 payroll, and I think the Boston Red Sox are at 11, so we'll throw them in there. I think any sort of these teams are going to be on Juan Soto, just like you said. Juan Soto is obviously going to make your baseball team better. It's as simple as that. He's one of the best players in all of baseball, one of the best hitters in all of baseball. He can completely change the direction of a franchise. And with all these articles coming out, like, I don't even know which one to start with. We're hearing sort of the same story from a lot of these articles. I guess the main thing I'll sum up is the majority of these articles are saying the New York teams are the favorites. It's either the Mets or the Yankees. But a lot of analysts, especially Bob Nightingale, are saying that the Toronto Blue Jays are a dark horse, and he would not be surprised if they do swoop in on Juan Soto, especially with how in they were on Shohei Ohtani, obviously coming down as apparently rumored to be one of the finalists for Shohei Ohtani. So I guess I'll throw it back over to you. Was there any articles that really stuck out in your perspective?
Well, I mean, it has to be the Bob Nightingale one. And that one is the one that pointed all of this out to me, in the sense that he brought up the fact that, well, again, and what I say from this is going to be different than what I feel. I'll sort of read the little bit that I have here from that tweet, Carter, or that post from Bob Nightingale. The Toronto Blue Jays still have a $7 million burning hole in their wallet. And that's the piece that stands out to me, because I don't necessarily believe that the Blue Jays want to spend $600-700 million on a player. And so this is where it hurts. It's like, yes, they were willing to pay the best baseball player to ever live, most likely, $700 million. I don't necessarily know that they now want to go out and get a guy that, you know, they are going to have to pay that much to for so many years, be locked in. Yes, 100% they would be willing to do so. The big question always comes down to who pays more and who offers more as a city, as a place to live, as all these amenities. And I feel like that's something that's missed on a lot of these reports. And this goes back to the exact same thing we talked about with Shohei Ohtani. Would you rather live in LA or would you rather live in Toronto? Well, yes, you got the whole country behind you, and that's great. But just for an everyday standard of living life, where would you rather be? I don't know. That's a piece that's not overly talked about in all of this. And when we're comparing New York City, the Big Apple, to Toronto, it's a little bit of a stretch. It's a quality of living. It's a what's around me, who's around me. And so I do understand what Bob says when he's talking about the $700 million burning hole. But in the same respect, I feel like that this is not the same thing as the Shohei Ohtani thing. You have to remember, Shohei Ohtani brings a nation of jersey sales, ticket sales, everything in between, merchandise, everything, whatever you want to say. The Blue Jays could make all of that back. And yes, Juan Soto is going to sell stuff for their team, but it's not the same thing. Shohei Ohtani has so much more marketability than Juan Soto. Shohei Ohtani might have the biggest marketability in all of sports, which is crazy to say, but you've got everywhere that wants a piece of Shohei Ohtani. It's not the same as a Juan Soto. So to pay a ton of money and just be willing to throw whatever you want at him, I don't think is a smart business move. And Rogers and Carter, we'll get into some of this topic. I know you got these stats, aren't the team that's going to go out and spend a ton of money on specifically one player.
Yeah, we're going to try to save all the contract talks for the second segment, but there's a bunch of things that go into it. When you have Shohei Ohtani, obviously a major difference. Shohei Ohtani can usually, again, barring the injury, can pitch for your team as well. So he's playing both positions. That's why he has the biggest contract in all of baseball. But we look at just, again, different factors going in the Toronto Blue Jays. To customs, some players absolutely hate customs. They don't like going across the border. Obviously, the Canadian tax system. When you look at places like Cali, like New York, the Toronto Blue Jays are going to tax their contracts a lot more. So maybe they're going to have to slightly overpay compared to these other states in the U.S. to get a guy like Juan Soto. There's also the debate where, again, when it's New York we're talking about, it's not too much different. I think it's a little bit warmer. I'm not too familiar with how the weather is compared to Toronto in New York. So it's fairly similar. But again, Toronto's cold, especially with Juan Soto being from the Dominican Republic. Maybe he doesn't want to go to Toronto. So San Francisco might be able to be a dark horse when they talk the Los Angeles Dodgers. I don't think Juan Soto is going to go to the Dodgers this time, just because with all the money they have to pay people like coming up, and just with how good their team is already. Like if Juan Soto signs there, I mean, you might as well wrap it up already. But just, again, looking at the articles, a lot of them are very overwhelming because there's so many different things being said about Juan Soto. One that I want to bring up that's not from an analyst, but I like this tweet here from Atkins to Alcatraz, which is
I saw this one.
If the Toronto Blue Jays really want to leave a strong impression with Juan Soto at their meeting today, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. needs to be sitting at the table and assuring him he's going to sign an extension while recruiting his childhood friend to come join him so they can win championships together. And that is one positive that the Toronto Blue Jays do have, is Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and Juan Soto are friends. So you got to hope Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is a little bit in his ear trying to get him to sign with the Toronto Blue Jays. But then playing devil's advocate here, is Vladimir Guerrero Jr. going to advocate for Juan Soto to sign when he hasn't even signed with the Toronto Blue Jays? In theory, Juan Soto could be taking some of the money that's supposed to be allocated to Vladimir Guerrero Jr. So there's there's the brief, the surface level stuff, whereas the money, obviously the team, just how good the team's expected to be. But there's also so many different components, the living situations, like you said, the players on the team. With the Juan Soto's contract, I think we can both agree it's probably going to be a minimum of 10 years. So he's going to be spending a great majority of his time in whatever city he signs. So there's a lot to consider, a lot of things to talk about. And sometimes especially with how immersed we are with the Toronto Blue Jays, this could be very overwhelming.
It is. Because when I go back to when people ask me the question of what do I think, I keep going back to, I don't really know what to think. I don't want to believe everything I read. You can't believe everything you read because you'd be believing a million people for some reason. So at the end of the day, I try to really gather my thoughts on this sort of thing. And I guess I'm going to leave it here for myself, Carter, is yes, any team would be lucky to have Juan Soto. You want Juan Soto. You will pay Juan Soto whatever you need to get him here. The other part of me goes back to, okay, is it realistic that he comes here? And I'll go over the odds, Carter. This is something that really interested me because, I'm a betting guy. I like to dabble in the bets. So I looked up what the betting odds were. So this is from November 12th. The New York Yankees are minus 230. The New York, so being the favorites, the Mets are at plus 170. So shortly behind. Then it's the San Francisco Giants at plus 1100. Then the Dodgers also at plus 1100. Then the Nationals at plus 1,600, tied with the Blue Jays at plus 1,600. So the Blue Jays are pretty far down on this betting list. So, I mean, yeah, if you're going from a betting standpoint, the Blue Jays might be a great option. But that just shows you, I think, how much faith the fan base and sort of everybody within the baseball community has in the fact that Juan Soto will sign with the Blue Jays. And that shows you not much.
Well, and you didn't even bring up the Boston Red Sox that are also meeting with Juan Soto. So that just right there shows that how much can you really take away from these meetings. And like I said, pretty much every team should be on Juan Soto if you're willing and available to give him this money. If you have that payroll on your team, why wouldn't you be on Juan Soto? He's one of the best players in the league right now. And there's again, I have probably 15 articles that if I wanted to read word for word that we could do on this podcast. But again, the overwhelmingly commonplace thing, what they're all kind of getting to is that it's the New York Mets, it's the New York Yankees, and the rest is really a crapshoot. So where do the Toronto Blue Jays fall? really depends on the analyst. It really depends on what their perspective is on the Toronto Blue Jays.
Yeah, it keeps going back and forth, right? You read one article and you might come away with it with something, then you read another one and you come away with something different. It's all who you believe personally and what you can take with truth, with a grain of truth. And I don't know who that is anymore. Last year I thought it was John Morosi. I feel like he was a guy, a trustworthy source that I could, put some faith into. And now I'm sort of back at the start where I don't know how much more these guys know than the guys who are recording a podcast about everything that's happening, or the average fan, because nobody has a hot clue of what's going on in the players' heads. And until contract or pen and paper on the table, or leaks come out that what these contracts are, it's all speculation. It's all a crapshoot, as you said, Carter. So again, I think the big component here is 100% where does Juan Soto want to play? I think all the contracts will be fairly similar. And we'll talk about the contracts and what some possibilities are, and then we'll get into something else a little bit too. But at the end of the day, my guy, I know this is a long first segment, but it's everywhere. It's the Blue Jays media. It's the MLB. Everywhere is reporting the same thing. Juan Soto is the big fish. So I don't know. I know we're going to have to keep talking about this because it is the big story and it is what all you guys probably want to hear about. But I'm at the point where I'm almost done. Like, I'm sort of just like, hey, you know what I mean? Whatever happens, happens here. The Blue Jays have to have plan Bs in place. And I am sure that this free agency, they do. So at this point, I'm like, okay, let's just wait and see. Why are we doing all of this speculation when nobody has a hot clue what's going on?
Well, that's the funny thing about free agency is right now everyone could be in on Juan Soto because he hasn't signed yet. And I was looking through all these articles because I have so many. John Heyman has another one where the Rays are another team that are involved. Sure. So 4 out of the 5 AL East teams, might as well throw the Orioles in there too because they want to compete. Every single team is probably in on Juan Soto, probably calling him to see where his head's at, how he's feeling. There's so many different things that go into the contract discussions that we're honestly just scratching the surface. And it's so early on in free agency. When you looked at Shohei Ohtani, when it took him, I think it was December when he ended up signing. So we still probably have at least another month of these Juan Soto rumors and debates, things like that. There's obviously more to come out. Some teams will drop out based off different statistical facets. Again, maybe the money will be out of their price range. There's so many things to consider. So we're going to kind of get into the contract talks, focus on that, and see what a Juan Soto contract could look like in 2025. We'll get into all that right after this short break.
Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. I know I talked about it before already in this segment. I like placing some bets, and when the Blue Jays are a long shot, you might as well take a shot. But you can also get ready to tackle NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. I might just take that $150 and throw it on the Blue Jays to land Juan Soto. If it's a free $150, easy. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. I always talk about it. It's my favorite thing to do. I love to be in the game, watching the game, and then throw a bet on because I can see who's doing well, who's not doing well, what the trends look like. That's why the live game betting is my favorite. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Well, big first segment. Huge. I can't believe we took that long. But you know what? And now we still got contracts to talk. Jesus. All right. Well, here we are. Carter, in your head, I'm going to just start it here. There is rumors. You could pull out a number from God knows where and tell me this person said this because everybody's got their own opinion. What's your opinion? What do you think that this Juan Soto contract will be? I want it right now. Your guess.
Again, tough to speculate with so much to go on. You have Shohei Ohtani's contract, and then you obviously have a massive drop off. The main one I've been seeing is I'm just going to throw it out there now. I don't really agree with it. It's $630 million, 14 years for $45 million a year. I'd rather the Blue Jays not do that. I think you sign a 26-year-old for 14 years. Like, that's probably going to end up having to be what it takes to get a guy like Juan Soto to sign with your franchise. It's another thing that when we talk about these contract extensions, and not just how Juan Soto is playing right now, is how is he going to play when he's 30? How is he going to play when he's 35? If you want to sign him until he's 40 years old, how is he going to play until then? So I'm going to give, I guess, two numbers here. I'm going to give what I would want the Toronto Blue Jays to kind of like their final number to be. Again, this might change if he's going back to the New York Yankees. I might just say all out bidding war because I don't want him on the Yankees. But for me, the highest I could see is probably that 14-year, $630 million. I think that's a little high. I wouldn't want the Toronto Blue Jays to do that. I much rather them do like a 10-year and then pay him $50 million a year, but have a $500 million contract. Then you don't have to worry about the fall off nearly as much. Again, you'll sign him into his 36 age season. Is there going to be a little bit of a drop off? Most likely. You see that with a lot of players. So that's where I would be at. If we can be around 10 million, 10 year, 500 million, I would love that. But is that realistic? Probably not.
Yeah, and I think Juan Soto is looking in the upwards of $600 million range. If I was to guess, I would assume that's what the reports are, that it will be 600 million, if not more. Again, for me personally, this all comes back down to what Rogers is willing to do. If you sign this contract, you're pretty much saying we are okay for the next 10 years to spend above the luxury tax. And I don't know if that's realistic to think. I could very well see they get Juan Soto and they think, hey, we don't have to sign anybody else. We'll just add a couple free bullpen arms that, and we should be fine. And that's what I'm worried about. With this whole Juan Soto talk, the worry is what else is Rogers going to do? Because one player does not change your team in baseball. You need those supporting seats. And yes, Juan Soto's great and he does everything you need him to do. But you also need those pieces. And we've seen that with the Yankees, losing out in the World Series to the Dodgers. The Dodgers are a stacked team. They have tons of pieces. And the Blue Jays would have to do something. So I'm a little bit worried. And yes, I could 100% see that $630 million contract for the 14 years. I think that, like you said, is crazy. But also not the craziest thing I've seen. I want to, Carter, I talked to you about this before. There's a Forbes article that came out talking about this. Take as much as you will away from Forbes. Not the biggest Forbes sports fan of all time. I don't know, how they cover all this. But I want to read this. So Ohtani was 29 at the time and became the highest paid player in MLB history. Soto will be 3 years younger than Ohtani when he signs his next contract. There is speculation Soto's deal will land somewhere in the $600 million range for 10 years. That's $60 million a year. Then they go on to say, or it may be possible Soto eclipses Ohtani's agreement, making Soto the highest paid player in history. Now, do I think that this is going to happen? No. But I think that what happened here, Carter, with the Ohtani deal is it has now set a precedent. And that precedent might not be that every player will now try to reach that $700 million. But I think you're going to start to see these contracts continually jump up over the next few years. And teams will have to start paying more and more and more. And that's just how contracts work. Do I think it'll be $700 million? Probably not. It'll probably be that 600, 630, somewhere in there. But at the end of the day, I think in the next 5 to 10 years, you're going to see a lot more contracts hitting that $600 million mark, or that $40 million a year type of deals. Those you're going to see a lot and a ton more of that. And I know you had a little bit of an argument to this going against me on the fact that there will be more of these contracts just because of what Ohtani did and the success seen from that. That's where I'm coming at it from. I'll throw it to you. You can argue me. You can call me names if you want. Let's hear it.
If you sign Juan Soto to a 10-year, $600 million contract, Ross Atkins, get off my baseball team. I don't care how good Juan Soto is. That is absolutely insane that he's even touching close to what Shohei Ohtani is doing, because this guy doesn't play that good a defense. Juan Soto is really only being signed for his bat. Again, I shouldn't underplay it that aggressively because his bat is one of the best in baseball, but he's not pitching. He shouldn't even be relatively close to Shohei Ohtani, in my opinion. You say there's precedent. I don't think that's as big of a problem right now because you look at Shohei Ohtani's contract, $700 million. The next closest is Aaron Judge, 9 years, $360 million. So do I think Juan Soto's going to jump up all the way to $600 million? Absolutely not. You say precedent. Usually these contracts, when you look at them, they go up slightly. There's a slight increment increases. But you look at Aaron Judge, again, there's different things that go into this. He signed his contract when he's a little bit older. Juan Soto being younger probably gets that monetary value a little bit higher up. But I don't think this guy even touches close to $600 million unless there is a massive term on it. It has to be 14 years, 15 years, something like that. If it's 10 years or lower, there's no way that he's even close to eclipsing the $600 million mark. But I will kind of go back. You said that Juan Soto wouldn't really change the Toronto Blue Jays. The New York Yankees in 2023 went 82-80. The next year they got Juan Soto, they went to the World Series. I think Juan Soto could completely change the direction of a baseball team. Again, when you need good pitching, you need a bullpen, obviously. But if the Toronto Blue Jays just get Juan Soto and they kind of run back the other players that they do have, I think this offense is going to improve drastically because Juan Soto is that good at baseball. But I'm kind of playing both sides here a little bit because Juan Soto is that good, but he's not worth $6 million or $600 million, in my opinion.
Yeah, and that's tough for me. I'm sort of, and I understand your point to it. Going back on the precedent part of that, I want to sort of start there, and then I'll sort of work my way through what you just said. The precedent part of it is that you're seeing it in every league. Every league is doing the same thing in the sense of one player signs, one guy waits for this guy to sign to see what the precedent is, and then he knows what he has to ask for. This is what happened with the Shohei Ohtani deal. Shohei Ohtani got his deal, and everybody else is like, okay, now I know I can ask for so much because I know what the best player in baseball is making. And if guys are willing to pay Shohei Ohtani $700 million, maybe they're willing to pay Juan Soto $600. Maybe they're willing to pay Aaron. Again, Aaron Judge, I think, is way worth his contract.
I think he's on a bargain, actually.
Yeah, I agree. So in that sense, but I think in the next 5 to 10 years, like I said, I think we're going to start seeing more and more guys trying to push the envelope. And we saw a lot of Scott Boras's players trying to do that, slowly trying to. They think teams are just going to go out and spend whatever. And I think the difference with that compared to the situation we're in now is you see a superstar, probably at the end of his career, a future Hall of Famer in Juan Soto, probably wanting to earn what he's worth. And a lot can change over 10 years. So if he's going to put his 10, 12, 14-year career on the line, he wants to make sure that he's making what he ends up being worth, because when that 14 years is up, then the pay scale is probably completely changed, and you're seeing a ton more guys making what he's making. So that's the precedent piece for me. Going back on what you said about Juan Soto being a great player, you are 100% right. Juan Soto is a fantastic player. But I look at the Yankees compared to the Dodgers. The Dodgers team is filled with all-stars, future Hall of Famers. And yes, the Yankees had a good team. They had a bunch of pieces. But I think we all knew going in a little bit, at least in my head, that's sort of what I assumed was going to happen. I look at this Dodgers team and I'm like, they're just better than everybody. And it's not close. And so when I look at that, I think if you add Juan Soto, again, what happens with the Bo contract? What happens with the Vlad contract? That might set something into motion, because can they afford to give Vlad and now Bo another huge contract? That's a huge question, because if they can't bring Bo back after that, well, now you're left with the same sort of situation you're in. You're hoping that Vlad and Juan Soto both have a great season, and that's what you're going to have to rely on to win a bunch of games. And I don't know if that's the right play moving forward. I don't think you can put everything on the shoulders of two of your players, especially with not a ton of surrounding pieces that are necessarily great baseball. I think if you have Bo, Vlad, and Juan Soto, maybe a resurgence from George Springer, a resurgence from Daulton Varsho in the hitting aspects, then maybe okay. But I think when you don't add to the bullpen, you don't add these supplementary pieces that they probably need to, I don't think Juan Soto is enough.
Yeah, if you look at Juan Soto matching up to the Los Angeles Dodgers. If you get Juan Soto, I think they're still behind the mark with the Los Angeles Dodgers. I think if the Toronto Blue Jays want to try to match the Dodgers, they're going to have to spend way more than whatever. Let's say $50 million for Juan Soto. They're probably going to have to spend another $50 million on other pieces just to match the Los Angeles Dodgers. That's the precedent we're trying to set here. Is we're trying to be like the Los Angeles Dodgers. We are doing a terrible job as a Toronto Blue Jays organization. We are not even close to them. And again, the Los Angeles Dodgers have so much deferred money for some of these players going into the 2030s that it's going to be tough for any sort of team to match that. I'm going to go back to the precedent thing you said. You kind of brought up that NHL players, like say Connor McDavid signed his contract, there's precedent there. For example, when the quarterback signs a contract, when Patrick Mahomes signed his, a bunch of players trying to be, I guess you could say, a little petty or just wanting to be the highest paid quarterback in the league, they set a precedent there. This situation with Shohei Ohtani is completely different than any other situation in any other sport because you don't have Patrick Mahomes playing quarterback and then going on the other side of the ball and playing defensive back. You don't have Elias Pettersson, for example, playing center and then going to play goalie. With Juan Soto and Shohei Ohtani, Shohei Ohtani is, when he's healthy, one of the best pitchers in all of baseball. He's also one of the best hitters in all of baseball. Juan Soto is one of the best hitters in all of baseball.
Okay.
Juan Soto on the mound? I would love to see Juan Soto try to do what Shohei Ohtani's doing on the mound.
I understand what you mean, but you look at it, we're not talking about, a guy that can go and play goalie and also play forward. We're talking about the best player in their respective sports. Connor McDavid might go down. Again, I'm a Wayne Gretzky guy, but might go down as the all-time best hockey player of all time. So he sets a precedent. He is the same in that aspect as Shohei Ohtani. They are the two best players in their respective games who are pushing debatably to be the best players ever in their respective sports. And so, yes, it's not the same, but it is the same. They are the best at what they do in each of their sports. They will set the precedent, open up the pay scales. Why is the NHL moving their salary cap up? Because teams can't afford to pay the players what they deserve. In the MLB, that's not a problem. Players will get paid what they think they are deserved.
Again, when you value pitching compared to an outfield position, we've kind of been talking about this last week. A pitcher and then maybe your catcher are some of the most important players on the entire baseball field. Maybe you have a little bit of an argument here that Shohei Ohtani doesn't play the outfield or doesn't play defense when he's hitting. He's just DH. But if you're Shohei Ohtani can win the game by himself. He could pitch, and theoretically, he could pitch 9 innings and hit 3 bombs and then win the game. It's just Shohei Ohtani. In what other sport can one player win the game for their entire team? Yes, obviously they could have unbelievable performances. Sometimes these unicorn kind of games happen, but Shohei Ohtani could set his team up very well by pitching and then also hitting as well. When you look at Juan Soto, yes, maybe he will be one of the best players in all of baseball, but pitching is so important. Hitting is so important. When you get both, a guy doing both of those things rather than just one, I think it's just absolutely wild, for a lack of a better term, to think that Juan Soto should even be deserving or close to what Shohei Ohtani is making.
And I'm not saying, that's not what I'm saying here. I don't think that Juan Soto should be making $700 million, but I'm saying it sets a precedent. Now guys know that they can make more than they probably should have, say, 3 years ago. I think that the tax or the pay scale has now risen. We are now seeing a new era of baseball where guys will get paid more because of the Shohei Ohtani deal. That is what I'm talking about. I don't think Juan Soto is worth $700 million, but I do think is now it opens it up. Guys will start to make more money. And talking about guys that can change games, Connor McDavid can go out and win you games. That is just how it is. Patrick Mahomes can go out and have an unbelievable day and win you games. I don't think that's a question. Tom Brady went to a different team and showed that he can carry a team and win a Super Bowl. There are guys like him. It's Connor McDavid can come back and play defense. You're talking, like, you know what I mean? Like, but at the end of the day, like, all these guys can change games. It's not absurd. And Ohtani can only pitch every 5 days. So he can't go out and win you 162 games. And I'm not saying Connor McDavid could go out and win you 82. But I do think that these guys are the best possible players at their respective sports, leading the league in their pay scale. And what it's starting to do is increase that pay scale for every other player beneath them. That is what my argument is at the end of the day.
Yeah, when you look at, I guess, just the numeric value, literally the monetary value Shohei Ohtani's getting, it just because it is so high, maybe that would inspire them to close the gap a little bit quicker than it would have happened previously. Yeah, and you're right. Like, Connor McDavid, you're right. He can't go out and win a game. And I think you made a good point saying Shohei Ohtani obviously cannot pitch every single game unless I've seen these videos. I don't, again, this is kind of just a random throw-in thing here that I can't remember what his name is, but he has this new throwing style where he pitched, I think it was 8 games in a row. I'll look it up for the next podcast and get this guy's name and everything. So unless Shohei Ohtani somehow decides to do that and he can go and pitch 8 games in a row, then that's definitely going to be something that the Dodgers should look into if they can get that kind of longevity out of any sort of pitcher. But yeah, just going back to it, I kind of get what you're saying. And I will agree that, again, probably Juan Soto gets more money now because of the Shohei Ohtani contract rather than what he would have got if Shohei Ohtani was not in the league. But if Juan Soto is even in the realm of the Shohei Ohtani contract, I think managers absolutely fumbled the bag on this.
Yeah, and I do get where you're coming from too. I think at the end of the day, these arguments that we have, if you want to call them that, it's good to go back and forth because I think you see a little bit of both. And it's just putting together sort of different aspects. And I think we were both coming at this maybe from a little bit of a different angle. But yeah, great. You got to have these debates once in a while. So debate us in the comments. What do you guys think? Do you think that this opens up the pay scale for every other player in the league? Let us know what you think. What do you think Juan Soto is worth? We still have some first base options to get to, and we are going long because, we get into an argument or conversation.
I got one more thing too.
Sure.
You asked me like kind of what my like contract aspirations were. Since you think Juan Soto is going to get again more of an increase in money because of the precedent, what do you have Juan Soto getting this offseason?
I to be honest with you, I could easily see him getting 45, 46, 47 million dollars. I don't think it's going to hit quite the 50 million a year mark, but I think easily I could see him getting the 56, 57 if it comes down to it. If it seems willing to pay him, and probably what it would be is more so most likely less term with more money. That's probably where it'd be. I think if you sign him for the 14 million or 14 years, then you're probably looking at a little bit of a pay cut. And I think that's sadly, I think with the direction the Toronto Blue Jays would have to go. I think as much as I don't necessarily I wouldn't want him for the last 3 years, 4 years of that contract. I think that it's something, again, a little bit of a soak that the Toronto Blue Jays would have to do. So I'm probably in that, ideally the 10-year 45, 46. Again, that's a little bit much for me. It's probably not necessarily what I want. I think if you get him at the 44, 45, that's ideal. Anything more than that's a little bit crazy. But again, I'm arguing over pins and needles over $2 million a year. So whatever, I guess.
Well, we brought up Aaron Judge. We brought up Shohei Ohtani. At the end of their contracts, they're going to be 39, 40 years old anyway. So I think it's kind of expected that Juan Soto is going to sign a longer tenured contract just to have that contract security. He's going to want to make more money for a longer period of time rather than probably sign this shorter term deal. And again, maybe we'll get more money in that short term, but then is he going to sign a very high value contract when he's 36 years old? Probably not. So I think it's in Shohei Ohtani, Juan Soto's best interest to sign a longer tenured contract and secure the bag for a longer period of time. But saying that, yeah, leave your comments and leave your opinions in the comment section, whether you're more on Braden's side, whether you're more on my side. Again, if you guys want to call us names, I will have no fault against you on that one because we have had some wild takes on this podcast and we've had some wild takes in general. So maybe sometimes you got to be held accountable. But we have some more things to get into, some first base options for the Toronto Blue Jays if Vladimir Guerrero Jr. does end up playing some third base. So we'll get into that discussion after this short break. Today's episode is sponsored by SelectQuote. The World Series, the Super Bowl, and the Olympics, the world's top athletes get to play in these top-level sporting events thanks to one thing, teamwork. Teamwork can also protect your financial legacy and family's future. SelectQuote's licensed insurance agents are the perfect teammates when shopping for customized and affordable life insurance. In sports, winning is everything. That's why you always need a good strategy to keep you moving towards the goalposts. Winning strategies for life are just as important, and that's why on my team, I have life insurance through SelectQuote to protect my legacy and family legacy. You invest so much time to take care of yourself and to be the healthiest version of you. SelectQuote's exclusive policies can reward that effort. If you are in good health, they work with carriers that can get you the same day coverage for up to $5 million. No medical exam required. And these policies are more affordable than you think. You can get coverage for up to $1 million for as little as $20 per month. Get the right life insurance for you for less at selectquote.com/locked-on. Go to selectquote.com/locked-on today to get started. That's selectquote.com/locked-on.
So Carter, just a sort of a shorter third segment here. We talked about, we didn't really go into some of the first base options available on the market right now after yesterday's episode. For those of you who listened, we talked about if Vlad moves to third, who then picks up the slack at one? Is it Spencer Horwitz? We talked about in-house options. I'm going to give you a quick rundown on all the guys sort of available at the first base market right now. So you got Pete Alonso, Paul Goldschmidt, Christian Walker, Anthony Rizzo, Josh Bell, Justin Turner, Carlos Santana, Rhys Hoskins on a PO, Ryan O'Hearn, Wilmer Flores also PO, Yariel Gurriel, G-Man Choi, and Rowdy Tellez are all of the sort of available first baseman, Carter. I guess there's obviously a couple guys there that stand out that you'd love to get. And of course, that's barring any Juan Soto contracts. But who's the one that stands out like big time for you?
I'm going to say nobody. I don't want a first baseman because I don't think Vladdy can play third base. I think when we look at the Toronto Blue Jays and we look at positional needs, it would be idiotic to go to first base when you have second base, third base, and a left fielder with really no regular player in sight. I mean, if I had to pick one, I think it'd be hilarious if Justin Turner came back to the team. I would hate every single moment of it, but I think that would be funny. I don't know if you said Pete Alonso, but we have been rumored for Pete Alonso. That would be obviously my favorite, my go-to. But how realistic is that? If you're even slightly on a Juan Soto, if you're on a guy like Santander, Alex Bregman, you probably don't sign Pete Alonso. Again, the most realistic, maybe a Wilmer Flores. I don't mind that as much. Carlos Santana, again, he's almost was the Silver Slugger, competed with Vladdy. A little bit of an older guy as well, probably not playing a lot of defense, would have to slot in as your DH. So that kind of forces your hand a little bit as well. If you sign a first baseman, you'd really have to be in on Vladdy playing third base if you're going to go out and sign a first baseman this free agency.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you. Nobody, because I think you might as well go out and get a third baseman then. You might as well go get an Alex Bregman. I don't understand the thought process here. When the Jays came out, they said in the order, it's left field, second base, and third base. Yeah. And in my head, it should be absolutely get the guy like Anthony Santander. He's still my number one. He's still the guy I want to see on this team. But then I think if you do that, then that opens you up to be able to get a guy like Alex Bregman at third base. I think that is the clearest path forward here for this team with addressing a bunch of different needs. And then, of course, why move Vlad? You've seen what he can do at first. It sort of does. He doesn't have to overly as much worry about the defensive side of the game. Obviously, still want it to be good. This to me is just whatever. If you had to pick a guy, I don't hate if it's like a very short-term deal for the Goldschmidt. Pete Alonso, I mean, I love Pistol. And you've seen him be able to hit in big moments. Mets fans might be a little here or there with him because of his season. It's just a very weird season from Pistol.
After that playoff performance, they're probably okay with him coming back.
Yeah. I think before that playoffs, they were probably pretty pissed with him. And then it just was a complete switch up. But you need guys that can perform in the playoffs. Pistol is obviously one of those guys. So, at the end of the day, I'm with you on this too, Carter. I think that keep Vlad away from third. Ideally, you get the Bregman, the Santander, and you roll from there.
Yeah, I got one more thing to end this episode. Juan Soto or Santander and Alex Bregman.
You're going to hate my answer. You're going to hate it's Anthony Santander and Alex Bregman. I think getting two more bats in this lineup, especially guys that you can see what they've done throughout their careers, they're not long shots. Neither's Juan Soto. Don't get me wrong on that. Like, he's a great player. He's better than both of them. But at the end of the day, I think that for this team, it just makes your team that much deeper, that much more secure. If it's either just Juan Soto or you could pick up those two guys, I think that's a great option.
I don't really think you can go wrong here, to be honest. Like,
No.
It's so hard to refuse Juan Soto. So I'm going to go with Juan Soto just because, I'm an Ernie Clement truther. I love this guy on the team. Is Alex Bregman better than him? Of course he is. A lot of this would come down to contracts. Again, Juan Soto is probably going to be a guy that when he's 39 years old, you're going to be paying a lot of money. You're not necessarily going to want to do that. But you sign Alex Bregman, you sign Santander, sign any of these bigger guys, you're going to have to pay them when they're not very good at baseball anymore. That's just kind of the Blue Jays market, unfortunately, with the Canadian taxes, with the geography, with a lot of things going into it. Not a lot of players seem to want to go to Toronto. So that's always something that we do have to worry about with some of these players. Honestly, if you can get either three of them, I think I got to be pretty happy with that at the end of the day.
Yeah. And we'll leave it there. This has been a long episode. We always appreciate you guys watching. Hopefully you liked this episode. I know it was a little bit of just ranting and raving, but sometimes we want to come on here, make it more of just hey, these are our opinions. These are our thoughts. Talk about something sort of off the wall. If it is contracts, if it is the random things, makes it fun for us to, keep everything spicy in the off season when there's not a ton of actual games going on. So I had a blast on this episode. I love the debates, especially when we get into it. It's a makes for a fun episode for sure.
Yeah, I'm curious to what the people are going to say about that. So yeah, again, leave your comments on the Juan Soto debate, whether you're more on my side, more on Braden's side, or maybe you have a completely different opinion. So we'll be interested to see your perspective. And Jesus, again, thank you guys for watching, and we will talk to you guys tomorrow.